I'm Montse Alvarado. Welcome to EWTN Pro-Life Weekly.
The cause of these women's death had nothing to do with the Georgia laws.
Correcting the media and Vice President Kamala Harris's claims that abortion bans led to 2 women's deaths. A doctor sets the record straight.
Miraculously, I didn't die, as so many did.
Testimony from an abortion survivor on the reality of late-term abortions after the Democrat campaign and an ABC journalist alleged they don't exist.
I'm most excited to report on the stories that are going to pierce through the darkness, heal darkened intellects, and melt hardened hearts.
And a big welcome for our new host of EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. We meet Abigail Galván.
And now in more than 20 states, we have a Trump abortion ban, which criminalized healthcare providers. In one state, providing prison for life. You guys may have heard the story, many here, about the stories about the horrendous, most recent stories about what happened in Georgia.
Presidential candidate Kamala Harris keeps abortion as the top issue of her campaign and uses the deaths of 2 young Georgia mothers who reportedly died following failed chemical abortions to smear pro-life laws and advance her push for greater access to abortion. According to the news site ProPublica, one of the women was 28-year-old Amber Thurman. She and her twins died in 2022 after Thurman took the abortion pill and suffered from sepsis after failing to pass her baby's complete remains. ProPublica claims the hospital waited 20 hours to treat her with a DNC, and when they finally did, she passed away on the operating table. The other woman they profile is Candy Miller. A medical examiner says fetal tissue was still inside her when she passed, but so were painkillers and the narcotic fentanyl. A cause of death was not determined. Harris argues that pro-life laws are at fault, but medical and political organizations immediately released statements refuting those claims. Let's get right to the facts from an OBGYN. Dr. Susan Bain from the American Association of Pro-Life OBGYNs joins us now to explain. Dr. Bain, these deaths were tragic. How could they have been prevented?
Thank you for having me. And yes, any loss of life is tragic, but particularly because these 2 women did not have to die. There was so much negligence in both their cases. In Amber Thurman's case, she did not receive the health care she should have received after taking legal abortion drugs. She needed a DNC, and it could have been performed much sooner than it was performed and likely saved her life. The reporting that Georgia nor any other state allows DNC is just wrong. Georgia's laws did not prevent this medical procedure. There was also negligence in this reporting. Outlets have to stop scaring women. Candy Miller reportedly did not seek care because she believed the harmful misinformation. And we're just seeing this over and over again, scaring women to seek guidance from healthcare professionals. There was also negligence in the FDA, who recklessly removed safeguards to protect women taking dangerous drugs. Both these women had legal abortions, yet they did not have ongoing medical care that they deserved. And then finally, negligence really occurred in medical associations. No one's voice is out there other than ACOG. Where are they seeking justice for these women? Medical organizations have to come out and recognize the cause of these women's death had nothing to do with the Georgia laws.
The Association for Pro-Life OBGYNs and Gynecologists came out saying that Amber Thurman's case is one of the most clear-cut cases of medical malpractice. And Marjorie Dannenfelser of Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life wrote that the common factors in the tragic deaths are dangerous abortion drugs and inappropriate care for their complications. In your medical opinion, is Vice President Harris bending the narrative here?
You know, my job as an OBGYN is to take care of both my maternal and fetal patient. Both these patients, and actually it was 3 because Amber was pregnant with twins, all lost their lives. And they lost their lives through taking dangerous abortion drugs. What I would like to see is any policies that can protect both of my patients to happen. And that's where all the medical organizations need to come together. And that's where Vice President Harris can be leading the way during her time as Vice President.
Well, we're grateful for your time and the explanation. Thank you so much, Dr. Bain.
You're welcome.
Our sister news organization, the Catholic News Agency, is also closely following Harris's claims. You can follow their coverage at catholicnewsagency.com. The vice president's claims about the women in Georgia are not the only campaign talking points that are being contested.
Nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking for an abortion. That is not happening.
During the debate last week against Donald Trump, Harris denied that late-term abortions happen in the United States. But we know that late-term abortions do happen. While there is no formal definition of late-term abortion in the medical field, a fact that pro-abortion groups use in their marketing, pro-life groups like the Charlotte Lozier Institute consider late-term to be at least in the second trimester. The second trimester, according to the Cleveland Clinic, is from 14 weeks to 27 weeks. More than a dozen states allow abortions up to the point of viability, which is typically 23 weeks. Those are highlighted in yellow. Many of these states have exceptions to allow abortions after viability for reasons including mental health. And the states in red have no gestational limit in their laws whatsoever. Harris's statement about abortion during the debate was incorrect, but according to Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life America, so were statements made by one of the moderators, ABC News journalist Lindsay Davis. Let's take a listen.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born.
Susan B. Anthony, Pro-Life America, says that Davis's statement is completely inaccurate and it ignores the reality of babies who survive failed late-term abortions, are denied basic medical care, and left to die. In Minnesota, in 2021, the State Department of Health reported that 5 abortion procedures resulted in a born-alive infant. According to the report, in one instance, fetal anomalies were reported resulting in death shortly after delivery. In 2 other instances, the infants were pre-viable. In all of those cases, no measures were taken to preserve life, and the infant did not survive. In 2 instances, comfort care measures were provided as planned, and the infant did not survive. Vice presidential candidate Tim Walz ended born-alive protections in the state in 2023. Late-term abortions do happen in many states, and their centers can be found online. We found websites that offer abortions from 25 to 31 weeks, others that talk about third trimester abortion, and others that offer abortion for 24 weeks and later. Katie Glenn-Daniel with Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life America and Kim Marvin with the Abortion Survivors Network join us now to dive a little further into the reality of late-term abortions. Kim, you're a survivor of a saline abortion at full term, 9 months. Tell us your story and how these campaign controversies affect you.
Yes, my story is one of a terrifying nightmare that I would have very frequently since I can remember as a little girl. And when I turned 15, this nightmare woke me up. And in great detail, I described it to my parents. And it is a feeling I would get, and all of a sudden I'd be in this very veiny, dark environment with a black object in the upper left-hand corner. I knew at 2 months in the womb that that black object was going to kill me, and I would be pushing back constantly. As I described this nightmare, and the black object being the saline injection is what was deduced, that my parents' faces just turned pale, and they said that they had me aborted. It was arranged by my grandmother, and miraculously, I didn't die, as so many did. This affected me in so many ways, but I want to share the most important thing, the power of forgiveness. My mother and my father said they were sorry, and I forgave them. And miraculously, I never had that terrifying nightmare ever again. It's affected me in so many ways. We're in a very marginalized community of the abortion survivors. You don't exactly find a lot of people or in your neighborhood that you can discuss this with, and it's a little isolating. So I'm very thankful for Abortion Survivor Network, who has connected me with so many other survivors.
Kim, that's absolutely the type of stories that we need to hear, these brave portrayals of forgiveness, but also of the reality that late-term abortion does exist. Katie, we briefly just showed this evidence, this testimony that late-term abortions are real. And we showed data from Minnesota, as well as current websites that offer these abortions after 24 weeks. How was Vice President Harris so dismissive of the idea that late-term abortions are real?
Well, stories like Kim's put the lie to everything that she tells women, that your baby doesn't matter, that this is not a second human life that you are carrying, and that abortion does not intentionally end that life. So women like Kim are so threatening to the abortion industry because you are the evidence that abortion is the ending of a child's life. So we couldn't be more grateful to those survivors who are willing to speak out, and we've got to push their message so that people like Vice President Harris have to answer for it. Why do you think that Kim should not be here?
Absolutely. Well, Kim, the Abortion Survivors Network that you gave great thanks for states that more than 85,000 infants have been born alive after failed abortion since 1973, and that the average number of abortion survivors each year is approximately 1,700. What impact do you think more permissive abortion laws will have on these numbers?
Well, we've already seen it. The number of survivors are increasing by 40%. And that has been going on since Roe versus Wade was overturned. So it's increased. And now we're actually reaching out to mothers of survival babies and working with them, walking with them, supporting with them, and also mothers that have adopted abortion survivor children.
It's so important. Katie, last question for you. Are there legal loopholes or deficits in reporting that allow late-term abortions to continue or to be promoted?
Yes, many states don't collect accurate information about this. We know, though, from the few states that do, like Minnesota until last year, like Florida, where I live, that these abortion survivors are real, that they are surviving abortion every single year. And so we've got to take that small amount of data we've got and really shine a light on this important issue and show the humanity of every single human child.
Well, it's absolutely important, and we're grateful for both of you for speaking out on this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pope Francis calling on Americans late last Friday to vote for the lesser of two evils in the United States presidential elections.
In genere si dice che non votare è brutto.
You have to vote, and one must choose the lesser of two evils. Who is the lesser of two evils? That lady or that gentleman? I don't know. Everyone with a conscience should think on this and do it.
This was during his return trip from the apostolic journey to Southeast Asia. Pope Francis slammed both presidential candidates without naming names as, quote, anti-life during his return trip from Asia last week. He said both are anti-life, both the one who throws out migrants and the one who kills babies. Both of them are against life. He went on to say that the church does not allow abortion because it is murder. And he said sending migrants away prohibits them from having life and is sinful. A North Dakota judge strikes down the state's pro-life protections. The district judge says the state's constitution protects the fundamental right to abortion up until fetal viability. Abortion was previously only allowed for a specific medical emergency under North Dakota's former law. The state judge says the law was too vague to be enforced fairly and added the state constitution protects the women's ability to make their medical decisions. North Dakota's Republican Attorney General has promised to appeal the decision. Continuing our coverage of U.S. abortion initiatives this election season, a measure to add abortion as a right into the state constitution, Proposition 139, will be on the Arizona ballot this November. Arizona's current law allows abortion up to 15 weeks of gestation. The ballot measure would extend that window to allow abortions until viability, when a baby can survive outside the womb, which is typically 24 weeks. Bishops released a statement through the Arizona Catholic Conference about the initiative, saying in part, while this ballot measure claims to be moderate in nature, its vague language would make Arizona one of the most extreme states in terms of abortion. Arizonans deserve far better than the measures being proposed in this initiative, which is why we strongly oppose Proposition 139. Jill Norgard with Arizona Right to Life joins me now to talk about the ballot initiative, Proposition 139. Jill, Proposition 139 is trying to codify into law that, quote, every individual has a right to abortion. Every individual. Would this include children, and how would this infringe on parental rights?
Yes, it does include children. It takes away the parental rights, the parental consent. So if you had a child that was a sex trafficked or a victim of rape, literally that child could be taken in for an abortion and the parents would have no idea. The parental consent is completely taken away.
One of the issues with this proposition, in addition to the parental rights issues, is that it leaves the decision of late-term abortion solely to the good faith judgment of individuals who may be financially benefiting from performing this abortion. Can you speak to the ethical implications of this?
Well, we hear all the time that the abortion decision should be made between a woman and her doctor. What Prop 139 does is literally takes the doctor out of the equation. So it refers to a healthcare professional, which is extremely vague. A healthcare professional can be your massage therapist or a dentist. And so what that does is literally takes away the standard of care for women having abortions. Abortion now is legal in Arizona up to 15 weeks. And what this does is eliminates the standard of care for women who would have an abortion at this time.
So abortion, as you mentioned, which is currently legal in Arizona with regulations in place, what is changing then? Can you explain Proposition 139 and how it would invalidate existing regulations and what effects that would have on women and children?
Yes, Prop 139 would literally legalize abortion up to birth, including late-term abortion. The language says before and after fetal viability, which is literally abortion up to birth. And again, done by a healthcare professional, which is extremely vague. It takes the medical doctor, no medical doctor required in this whole Prop 139 initiative. And frankly, we have been trying to debate the proponents of Prop 139. Last night, clean elections debate, they did not show up. This is the third time they have not been in person to justify why they want Prop 139 approved.
Well, Jill,
they won't show up.
Well, Jill, we're grateful for that. And once again, it's interesting to hear that we're still talking about late-term abortions in this election, which seems to be the number one talking point for the Harris campaign. Thank you so much for being with us.
You're welcome.
Don't forget to check out the Catholic News Agency's interactive map on state abortion ballots. Head over to catholicnewsagency.com and scroll to the bottom.
On this vote, the yeas are 51, the nays are 44.
A bill that would create a nationwide right to in vitro fertilization and force insurance companies to cover the procedure failed in the Senate on Tuesday. State Senate Republicans blocked the bill and called the vote a political stunt by Democrats. The measure had no exceptions for religious employers. Republicans have proposed an IVF bill that failed to get support from Democrats who said it contained loopholes. When we return, big changes are coming here on Pro-Life Weekly. A special guest will join me on set to explain. Plus, a major announcement by the March for Life. The president for more than a decade, Jeannie Mancini, will be stepping down. We'll tell you who will be filling her shoes. Stay with us. We brought you a glimpse of the annual Geneva Consensus Declaration Summit on our broadcast last week. This week, we want to take a closer look at the annual event held by the Institute of Women's Health to get a better understanding of why more countries are signing on to this initiative.
The Geneva Consensus Declaration is very important to Chad because, we promote, the real value of women and the family and especially the human dignity.
Chad, a country of almost 18 million in Central Africa, joined the East African country of Burundi as the two new members of the Geneva Consensus Declaration. The declaration aims to promote women's health, protect life at all stages, defend the family as foundational to any healthy society, and declare the right of sovereignty of nations to make laws protecting life and their values.
This declaration of Geneva is so good, and it works together with our laws.
International leaders from more than 40 countries took part in the event, including Egypt, Uganda, and Hungary. They were joined by several pro-life U.S. lawmakers, including Senator James Lankford of Oklahoma and Arizona Congresswoman Debbie Lesko. The wide range of countries represented include a wide range of cultures and beliefs, but they all agree that life should be protected.
We are countries that are pro-life. We believe that life is in the hands of God, and no one has the right to terminate any life, not through abortion and not through any other way.
Uganda's Minister of Health says they are combating pressure from foreign leaders to accept ideologies that contradict their country's culture.
We believe in partners who respect our sovereignty and respect our cultures and our traditions, not partners that come to push it down our throats that we should do what they believe in. Support me to do what I believe in and to help me to grow along those lines.
Uganda received the Institute's Distinguished Award of International Honor for the work done in country to support women, families, and life.
We also believe that the family is the unit of society. That should be supported to develop so that we can have communities that are God-fearing.
Protecting women, the preborn, and the family unit is different in each country that has signed the declaration. Chad may be newly signed onto the declaration, but their ambassador worked several years ago to increase access to a document that helps build safer and stronger futures for newborns.
When the women were delivering, it was not easy for the women to declare the kids, for them to have a birth certificate.
Birth certificates allow citizens to have access to public services, including education, and makes children less vulnerable to human rights violations like child labor and human trafficking.
So a few years ago, I was one of the leads, on that fight.
Very big news to share with you regarding the March for Life. The president, Jeannie Mancini, is stepping down after 12 years of leading the annual event.
It's kind of hard to put into words how special it's been between, some of the incredible highlights, whether that's the overturn of Roe v. Wade, the beginning of our state march program, welcoming the leader of the free world, the president of the United States in 2020 to speak the March for Life. That was also a first. So there have been so many wonderful moments, but it's truly just been a great honor.
Jenny Bradley Lichter is taking over Jeannie's role. She was most recently Deputy General Counsel at the Catholic University of America. At the university, she founded the Guadalupe Project, which provides resources and support to expectant mothers and their children. She says she's preparing for this new role first with prayer.
I have also done a lot of preparation with my husband and my children. I'll be the first president of the March for Life in its 50 plus years who has young kids. So my family is looking at this as a family apostolate.
Jenny will officially assume leadership on February 1st, 2025, just after the march. The March for Life will be held on January 24th in Washington, D.C., and EWTN News will be your source for full coverage of the event. Be sure to tune in for in-depth analysis of the pro-life movement in the United States. And another new face you will be seeing related to the pro-life movement, our new anchor of EWTN Pro-Life Weekly, who joins me on set now, Abigail Galván. It's so great to be here with you, Abby. Thank you so much for your yes. What did it feel like to be approached to host this really critical show, Pro-Life Weekly?
Honestly, it was a very humbling experience. I felt like unprepared, but I trust God and I feel like He equips the called. So amen. I'm excited.
Amen, amen. He equips the called. And I know that you've done a lot of work in religious freedom. You've also worked with leading Catholic apostolates like the Thomistic Institute and raising up the next generation of scholars and people in the public square with the Leonine Forum. Now you're here doing this great work. What does the pro-life movement mean to you?
Monse, for me, the pro-life movement at its core is about women. Women are being lied to, and they're the ones having to pay the price, not just with their bodies, but also with their very souls. So I really see this as an opportunity to shine Christ's light into the situation and help women recover their dignity and worth.
Well, there's no more important moment than right now to be talking about the issue in this way, but also shedding light the way that you're mentioning and bringing Christ into the conversation. What are you most excited to report on? What stories do you think are really untold?
Yeah, I want to say I'm most excited to report on stories that are going to pierce through the darkness, heal darkened intellects, and melt hardened hearts. And everything I just described is not the work of man, but it's the work of God. So I'm going to take a page from Our Lady's book and do my best to reflect Christ into the situation. The pro-life movement is at such a critical juncture that Christ is the one who's going to lead the charge.
Amen, he is. And we're so glad to have you here. And I hope you feel that warm welcome from the EWTN audience and also from the EWTN news team that's so happy to have you here. Thank you so much, Abby. And that does it for this edition of EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. Be sure to like us and follow us on our social media channels. You can find us on EWTN Pro-Life on X, Facebook, and Instagram.
And sign up for our newsletter, The Pro-Life Polls, EWTN.com/pro-life. I'll see you next week. Remember, life is a gift. Your life is a gift. God bless.